It's not working.
Hello, I'm Chuck Kermy. I am elected in the primary election on the ballot for a Republican. There is no opposition on the Democrat side. So thank you all for voting for me if you did. I've been here my entire life. I'm in my 70th year in Plymouth. I live in the area off Ann Arbor Trail, have lived off of Ann Arbor Trail my entire life in 4 different houses. West of Sheldon, about a mile, just past Trailwood, almost near Loren's condos. I went to high school here, went to Michigan Tech University. I'm a degreed engineer. I worked 42 years in the auto industry. I've been retired since 2018, and I came out of retirement to take a shot at preserving our quality of life here in Plymouth Township. I was concerned about some of the decisions that were being made that would be permanently changing our ambiance in this community, longer term leading to more crime and potentially raising taxes. And that leads into one of the primary reasons that, one of the primary concerns I have about Plymouth Township is keeping the tax rate where it is and not changing services, continuing our services. And that will be a big challenge. We also have a couple of lawsuits, especially the horse track, which I think was a major player in the election. We want to settle that without the track coming to Plymouth Township. So that will be a big challenge, and hopefully there will be not a substantial cost to doing that. But that case is winding through the court now. This township has submitted a response, and it'll take months. There will be depositions and things like that. So I'll leave the rest for most other people who have a bigger race than I have to run between now and November 5th.
Okay, Chuck, would you hand?
Thank you so much. My name's John Stewart. I've been a self-employed attorney on Main Street for 40 years at 1142 South Main. You know, you gotta determine whether there's any truth. You have to what people say to you. My father promised me I would get lied to every day. My father was right. Proven, trusted, experienced. I got a pop for another mailing, several $1,000s out the door. It'll be at your mailbox next week. I work on a very practical level. My mother was the youngest of 12 Vandervins, and my father was the only one to marry into the Dutch family. And my mother would tell my Scottish father, the Presbyterian, the Dutch can live off what the Scots throw away. I went to County Commissioner Terry Marecki. I said, we gotta have an intersection repaved. We got it done. Lakewood and Crestwood in Plymouth. Trusted. I've always been focused on service. The people of Plymouth Township want 3 things: service, service, and more service. Experienced. I'm ready to go onward and forward, but the toughest challenge our supervisor-elect has, and I will support him and work with him, is that with all the projects that have been started, oversight and accountability. Oversight and accountability. And the truth is going to surface, just like our traffic flow on Ann Arbor Road. The truth is going to surface. The fire department didn't let you know that 6 months ago there was a car that rear-ended a semi, and the lady lost her leg. She was going 82 miles an hour, and she rear-ended a semi. We had 3 fatalities out on M14. Judge Plakas calls that, which is Plymouth Township, calls M14 a death trap. I'm very concerned about the development, and I want to see oversight and accountability. At my age, I don't have time for anything that isn't based on the truth. And my daughters, who are 44 and 41, will tell you that is going to be on my tombstone. But I don't have time for anything that isn't based on the truth. And all we can do is strive for the closest approximation of truth. I have a lot of faith and hope in the new supervisor and in the tenor, and I don't mean the vocal section, the tenor of our township board meetings. Because I've had to talk to the Holland Sentinel, the Lansing State Journal, and they were just appalled at and they were shocked at our supervisor race. The amount of money spent, and then the actual numbers, and accepting the truth of those numbers that came through in the clerk's office. So I'd like to end with the best advice from a wise Plymouth Township resident. He sent me this email, and I will paraphrase. Stress your qualifications and how they mesh with being a trustee and a public servant. You are straightforward and down to earth. People don't like politicians. Be a man of the people. Politicians tend to really turn people off. Keep on serving the people of Plymouth Township. And I'd like to close with this. We are Plymouth Township, Michigan. We work together, we build our community, our future is bright, and we get to live here.
Dorshevitz, like Chuck, I don't have an opponent on the Democratic race.
Put it closer to your mouth.
Oh, sorry, so I'll be brief. This is when you're all supposed to cheer. So I live on the west side of the township. My only message tonight is that I'd like to underscore the fact that we had a really contentious primary and it got very ugly. And I want to remind us all that we're all neighbors. And my hope for the community is that we can come back together and unite. If you voted for me, thank you. If you did it, that's okay. I still represent you anyway. And please, winners be gracious winners and losers be gracious losers. And that's my request to you tonight.
I'm loud enough without this, but here we go. I'm Angela Nolan. I live, I wouldn't call it the west side. I live off of Ann Arbor Road in Sheldon. And, but I've lived in the township for about 25 years. When we first moved here, we lived off of 5 Mile and Bradner in a cute little Cape Cod bungalow. And when I had 2 girls, realized that 1 bathroom was not going to be enough. So my husband and I, Mike, have lived here about 25 years. We raised 2 girls here, and over the decades that we've been here, when I first came here, I didn't feel very connected. I came from the West Coast. I came from a different environment, and the only way to get connected is to involve yourself in things that are local. So first thing you do when you're a mom in an elementary school is you start to volunteer. And they suck you in. And so, but with that, I enjoyed every minute of it. I loved volunteering in the schools. I loved being a Girl Scout leader. I loved being chaperones on trips. And I enjoyed every minute of all of that because you only get your kids for about 18 years before they're flying the coop and going somewhere else. So with that, I involved myself in other things as well. I was on the board of the Plymouth Newcomers and Neighbors, which is defunct, but it was a great way to start my involvement on that board. And I was self-employed kind of throughout the years my kids were going through elementary school. And once my youngest got into middle school, I decided to put all that volunteering into action, and I actually started working for Plymouth Canton Schools. And that is rewarding in itself because it enables me to get to know the community on such a different level, but also a lot of new people that come into our community and start new from different countries or different states, which happens on a daily basis. Sometimes I'm the first person they talk to because they think they're calling the district, they're calling me. And I feel sometimes I'm the first person that actually stops and listens and tries to understand what they're asking. And even if I'm helping them in a way that doesn't involve the department I work for, I try and lead them in the right direction. So I want people to feel seen here, and I want them to feel welcome here. So that is a big goal of mine, is to be inclusive, and to make sure that people feel at home as much as I wanted to feel at home when I first moved here. So the immersion that I have gotten in this community has led me to where I am now, which is I'm running for township trustee. Seeing the politics that go on here, as everyone knows right now, it's been very divisive. And without our printed newspaper, we don't get as much of the big picture as we used to. And so what we do is we get our news from Facebook or from other sources, and that can be really misleading as well. So I appreciate being invited here by Susan and Plymouth Concerned Citizens. I want to say that I agree with Sandra that I think that this eventually should be a nonpartisan position. I think that it divides people more than ever. I think that this last primary divided people more than ever, and it's just unnecessary. We're all here for the greater good. So I've also been politically engaged for quite a long time. I started by just throwing myself into helping with elections. I was a precinct delegate, and I've served on other boards. I've served on the Educational Excellence Foundation for the Plymouth Canton Schools, which basically just put money right back into the classroom to help our teachers, to help our kids. That was a really rewarding board to be on, because I felt that it was just another way of giving back. I'm just a fierce advocate for social justice in general, so I've taught my girls to stand up for what they believe in, and I think that everything I do is showing, whether it's my own children or your children or grandchildren, what it's like to step up. I've never, ever, ever had a goal to be in politics. This is not something that I've wanted, in my life. It became necessary for me. I felt like I had to have a voice on a higher plane. So here I am. There hasn't been a Dem on this board since 1975. And when I heard that, I was shocked. And I felt that it was unnecessary, but here we are. The township is making great changes. We are a different crowd than we were 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. I don't like to say Dems and Republicans because it has a bad connotation now. That's it? Okay, well, I could talk all night. So with that, thank you so much for listening. I do, and I really encourage people to reach out and ask me questions if they'd like. So thank you so much.
I'm loud by nature, but I'll forget to talk into the microphone. Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Sandy Groth. I am a Republican candidate for Plymouth Township trustee. As I speak, I would like for you to see me as I am. I am the return on your investment, and you will come to understand that. The reason that I'm running for this office, I started working for Plymouth Township when I was 17, at the age of 76. Not at the age of 76, the year of 76. I am 65. I have worked on 4 separate occasions for Plymouth Township, twice as the deputy clerk. I have extensive operational knowledge about charter township law. I would never suggest that I am an expert at anything, because life is about learning, and if you want to, there is always something new to learn. I will say that I know and understand a lot about Plymouth Township, and I know it from many different perspectives. I know it as a citizen. I have lived here for the past 30 years. I share all of your concerns. I know it from living and sharing life with my late spouse, Larry Groth, who served as our fire chief for 24 years. He was the most dedicated, community-driven leader I have had the experience of knowing, which is probably why I married him, or at least a good reason. I know Plymouth Township as a 4-time employee of the township, mostly in the Office of Election Administration, where integrity is vital. I know it as a current and previous candidate for local township office, and I'm going to repeat what my father said to me. I am the daughter of a father who was a morally driven Michigan State Police trooper. And he taught me that if I'm big enough to do something, I darn sure better be big enough to face the consequences. I try to do that in my life on a regular basis. I live on the eastern portion of the township, so I am affected by the development Ann Arbor Road and Haggerty area. My number one priority is you. I think that citizen involvement and participation without fear of reprisal or disrespect is incredibly important. If the level of service that we provide is not adequate for any reason, as a board, we need to figure out why. As a charter township, we can levy up to 5 mills for the operation of our township. Any additional millage has to be voted on by you, and you have to approve it. And that means that you are the boss. If we are providing unnecessary services, I don't think we are, but if we are, that we don't need, we will evaluate that as well. I believe that citizen satisfaction comes from you being educated and included in the issues that we face. As elected officials, we must be held accountable and transparent in the process. Decisions should be made after citizen input, because that input should be reflected in the decisions that are made. In fact, if I am elected, one of the things I would really like to work toward is changing the part of Charter Township law that requires partisanship voting for local elections. Friends and neighbors do not need to be pitted against each other in the name of partisan politics. If you are unfortunate enough to have a house fire, are you going to stop and ask the firefighter when they arrive, are you a Republican or a Democrat? Do you care? I don't think so. You just want the fire put out. Likewise, fire, police, and emergency dispatch make up about 70% of our budget. These services are not partisan. They are not administered through partisanship. They are people issues. They are community issues. In general, we all want the same things when it comes to these services. We want our neighbors to be secure. We want our property values to be protected. We want the very best fire and police services for our community. We pay taxes for these services. They are mandated by law. Contrary to popular myth in the August primary, there are no defunding issues when it comes to these emergency services. I feel incredibly blessed and fortunate to have spent my life serving you in a variety of different ways. As you prepare to vote, I ask you to look at me as your investment. You have already paid for all the learning and experience I have attained. Please vote for me and allow me to work for you again.
Anybody in here? Anybody in here under 49?
I got 40.
Congratulations, you were not alive when we had a Democrat in the place. My friends tell me, a lot of them, that a Democrat cannot be elected to the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees. Looking at it that way, and the history, that's probably a pretty comfortable position to be in if I were a Republican. But my fantasy campaign manager, wait for it, Mark Twain, who could not be here tonight to introduce me personally, reminded me of something wise. Politics and diapers should be changed often, and for the same reason. My name is Bob Miller. I live on the east side of town. I'm asking for your vote and those of 9,500 of your closest friends. Despite my youthful appearance and face for radio, I'm only asking for one term. My bona fides, I have ample education, a master's degree. I was an adjunct professor at Eastern Michigan University. Somebody might relate to that. I've lived in the township for about 25 years. I came here from the Virgin Islands where I served 2 terms on the Land Use Appeals Board and 2 terms on the Alcohol Control Board appointed by the Governor of the Virgin Islands. 2 years ago, the development in my neighborhood was begun and approved. It was approved, but not by a supermajority. Trustee Stewart and our new supervisor voted against this development for good reason, okay? These supersized developments in our residential area are not going to do us any good. The area of land I'm talking about are the 34 acres of the old Elks Club property, and I have a couple of handouts in the back in case you want to refresh your memory on how that evolved and what became of it. All the trees are gone. All the wildlife is gone. They're no longer there. What you have there now is a blank slate of pavement and pre-construction development. What you may not know, though, is 2 weeks ago, there was a board meeting where it was announced that the luxury development townhouses, Plymouth Walk, was going to pave East Side Drive. Yay. A dirt road that never has to be paved. But some say that that's a good thing and the people on East Side Drive are all for that. I took a drive down East Side Drive this week. I spoke to some of the residents there. They said, well, paving, I said, did you know about the new water main that you're going to get? That's going to be over $600,000. You know who's going to pay for that? You are, the township. The development is going to benefit because there's going to be 639 townhomes flushing toilets all day long, and they need to expand the water main to a north exit of Ann Arbor Trail. Now, if you've ever been on Ann Arbor Trail on Riverside in that area, you know it doesn't take a genius to figure out that that's going to be a huge traffic problem, compounded by frequent train stops in that area. I'm asking us to just slow down the supersized developments. Do we really need that? My time is running low, so I will close with another little quip from my friend Mark Twain. It's curious that physical courage should be so common and moral courage so rare. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Councilman, and I'm running for clerk against Mr. Borba. I've lived in the township for 31 years and have raised 3 children here. They all went through the public schools here. They didn't go to the college I preferred, but you know.
I can't hear you well.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, I live on the west side of the township, and that side of the township is facing a sewage treatment plant, compliments of the current position of the current incumbent board, which is just would be a disaster on that side of the township. But that brings me to one of the reasons why I am running, and it is a lot of the development that has been going on in the township is it's just not, it doesn't balance with what the community needs or wants. No consideration for neighborhoods, for traffic, for public safety, for, you know, we're already contending with a lot of the trucks on the west side of the township. Millions of square feet of warehouse have been approved for 5 Mile, and that's surrounding the potential casino or racino and horse track, which I don't recall anyone asking for. And you know, the current board, not only did they welcome it. They competed with Northville Township for it. We undercut Northville Township by selling the property for, you know, like half the price that Northville Township was asking. So we invited them and we competed for it. And then we have the Myers that a lot of people didn't want. You know, it'd be nice to have another grocery store, but a huge Myers. Northville Township fought tooth and nail against that Myers in 2016, I believe, and they were successful. Their board listened to the concerns of their citizens. There's one person, Chuck Hermey, who voted against some of this ridiculous development that's going on. And I know folks on the east side have faced really wrong-headed development. I can't imagine sending cars from 600 new units of condos where the Elks property is to, down a residential street that is not really built for that purpose. I just feel like this current board has not taken into consideration the feelings of the community. You know, we have whole developments that are clear-cutting trees. I know people weren't happy with the Wabasto situation near Lake Point. I just feel like the board is not responsive. I am qualified to be clerk. I was your clerk from 2012 to 2016. I immediately had to become a certified election administrator. I did the work. I will do the work if I am elected again. I trained every time, right before an election, I did all of the certification training necessary. My deputy did all of the training certification necessary. Very hands-on with every aspect of the clerk's office. I ran 9 elections, strangely, in 4 years. Why we had 9 elections is another story, but it was a lot. But I am a certified election administrator. I am a certified Michigan municipal clerk, which was 120 hours of training. One of the things about a charter township is that, unlike a city, charter townships can only do what the law says they can do. A city can do whatever they want unless a law says they can't do it. So in charter townships, which is if you're a nerdy local government person like me, it's my favorite form of local government because of those things. All 7 members of the board have equal vote as trustees and the 3 full-time employees. Each full-time employee full-time elected employee is responsible directly for the various aspects of the departments that they are statutorily required to manage, which in the clerk's office also is accounts payable and the general ledger function. Anyway, I've done the job. I did the work, worked hard, and have the experience and the credentials, and I ask for your vote, and you won't be sorry. Thank you.
Good evening. You hear me okay? Great. I see a lot of familiar faces out there, and I know a lot of you personally for a long time, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jerry Vorba. I am the current Plymouth Township clerk and have been for the past 8 years. I'm 72 years young. And I live at the Park Home condominiums called Bradbury Park Home condominiums with a lot of my other very mature friends. It's a 55 and older community. It's a very nice community. When I first moved there, I rented because I wasn't sure I would like living in a condo. I always lived in a house. So I rented it with the option to buy. In just a short time, I found out that it was a very nice, pleasant place to live, and the people there were very wonderful, and so I've really, really enjoyed it. Now, my biography is, one, I'm 72 years old. I have 2 undergrad degrees and a law degree from University of Detroit School of Law. I've had a lot of different experiences in my life here, the 50 years that I've been in the community. I was a police officer when I was a young man. That was back in the horse and buggy days. And during that time, the township did not have a police department back then. It was a long time ago. And so the township contracted with the city of Plymouth for services. So that started my intimate relationship with the township residents. I was providing police service for you. Whenever you needed me, I would come and help you with your situations. I was a city commissioner in the city of Plymouth. When I was a city commissioner, I sat on the board of the Plymouth YMCA. Now the Plymouth YMCA, although in the city of Plymouth, provided services for the entire community. And so it was the Plymouth Community YMCA. And so we provided a lot of recreational services for the young people. I also served on the first Plymouth community situation, not chamber, but the, I'll think of it in just a moment. Anyway, I served as a state rep, and as state rep, even though at that time I lived in the city of Plymouth, I didn't just represent the city of Plymouth, I represented the Plymouth Township also. And so we did a lot of wonderful things in that time period during Engler's first term. One of those things was Prop A, which keeps your property taxes low. They can never go up more than 5%. And that was very useful for all of the senior citizens who are on fixed incomes. I was also a realtor for 33 years and serviced the area here in the Plymouth community. For the past 8 years, as I've said, I have been your township clerk. I was blown away by the time that I've spent here, that you actually selected me to do that. I was very pleased to do that. During those 8 years, I had to 5 different times face an opponent, whether it was in primary or otherwise, and each time you selected me, and I'm humbled by that. I'm asking you one more time, the 6th time, to elect me, Jerry Vorba, as your clerk. Was that the time? No. Oh. Cut me short, will you? And so I was a member of the Community Foundation, which I started to mention a little while ago, which did all kinds of services for the community. So I've had an intimate relationship with the entire community in different aspects and different processes and procedures. One of the things we've done here in the clerk's department is we've had to institute all of the changes that have happened in the election process. 2 of those things were constitutional amendments. The people actually voted for these changes. Those changes are no reason absentee voting. Before, you had to be 60 years old or have a reason to not be available on election day. Now you can get an absentee ballot for no reason. Matter of fact, you can now register on the same day that you vote. You can, excuse me, you can be on a permanent absentee ballot list, which means you no longer have to request a ballot, but you can have one sent to you automatically. So there's been a lot of changes, including the 9-day early voting that has taken place over the past several years. And I think that we've done a good job, myself and my team, in implementing all of these changes. Is that it? Oh, that's it. Okay, listen, thank you very much. Please vote on November the 5th, and I would appreciate your voting in.
Everybody hear me? Am I speaking close enough? Okay. My name is Michael Westra. I'm running for the township trustee position as a Democrat. My wife Judy and I live in the Trailwood subdivision, and where we've lived there for over 20 years. I originally hail from the west side of the state, so when Stuart made the comment about the Dutch being cheap enough to live off the leftovers of the Scottish, I can certainly appreciate that, having grown up on the west side as a Hollander myself. Where I attended Calvin University, and then afterwards, after graduating, moved out to the west side of the state. My degree is in computer science, and I've worked as an engineer in the auto industry for the last 25 plus years, working primarily now in cybersecurity. And so I lead a product cybersecurity team as a director at one of the major automakers. It's given me a lot of opportunity to deal with cybersecurity, both at a sort of a state and federal level. And so I've worked on a number of boards, including sort of SAE on standards boards, boards with some of the government agencies such as Department of Homeland Security, FBI, and other agencies like that. And so my wife and I have volunteered earlier in our two adopted children's who are now in college. Earlier on, we were very active in the PTO, founding a sort of a STEM night, then later working within the First Robotics group, and then as the kids age, we both sort of found ourselves attracted to politics since 2016 especially. And so I think given my previous board work, I've got a lot of the requisite experience working in boards, leading, chairing committees, and whatnot. What the current set of challenges facing the community, I think folks have kind of touched on some of those. I think there's been a lot of acrimony because of kind of one-party rule, and it would be great if we could get sort of this to be a nonpartisan race, but that's just not how townships usually operate. And so, hence we have a partisan race. And so I think having a balance on the board would be really a key distinctive going into this next cycle. We've seen a lot of division, acrimony, poor decision making. I mean, I think everybody in the room can agree the casino was probably not a great idea. There was a lot of support for it within the board up until it became very controversial. But there also needs to be balance, and so there's a lot of talk of one extreme or the other. Either we need to be a sort of pastoral community, sort of refining our roots, or we need to be a tech alley that's attracting and growing. And it really needs to be a balance, because it is a good thing to attack jobs to the region, to build a solid tax foundation, but that needs to be done in the right way and with the right pace and with the right development. And unfortunately, when some developments do go through, like using the Elks Club as an example, I think what I hear is everybody here would not have supported it. I think there's a lot of problems with the current project, but the challenge is then, as a trustee, now that it's going through, how do we listen to the community, balance the needs of all of the residents, and help to address those concerns? Because there is going to be a development there. And so, dealing with the traffic problems, getting the developer to pay for some of the road paving and sort of infrastructure upgrade, which is key. And if 5 years from now some of these roads aren't paved, there is still going to be an increase in traffic. And so we need to look at how we can best serve the whole community in the face that, unfortunately, this development, which now we're kind of regretting, is going to go through. And that's the sort of balance and practicality and pragmatism that we really need to have on the board. So please consider for voting me November 5th. Thank you so much.
My name is Joe LeBlanc. My wife Lisa. We've been married since '85, so we're closing in on 40 years. I am a resident and have been ever since we got married. I'm a resident of Lake Point, 2 different houses, but kind of in the shadow of the blue water tower over there. I am your libertarian candidate for Wayne County Clerk, so basically the whole county. If I had more time, I would challenge you slightly, but being a little interactive here, how many in the room here know that there's 2 people running for president? Okay, how many people here know that there's 3 people on your ballot for president? How many people know there's 4? How many know there's 5? About 6. About 7. The candidates up here have, we have a little cheat sheet because we've seen sample ballots already, but here in Michigan you have 7 people running for president. And we get hoodwinked here by the media and even in our standard conversations that there's Republicans and Democrats, you get your choice of either party. Well, I challenge you in that to look at your other third-party people, your third-party candidates. The Libertarian Party is very fiscally conservative. There ain't no freaking way that we're paying back $36 trillion in debt that the U.S. has. And socially, we are liberal, and I'll pause there for just a moment in that I am also kind of maybe upset some of you when I say this, but my wife says that as I've gotten older, my filter has kind of gotten dirty. But I am not an anti-woke candidate. I am not DEI, even though socially I will make the statement that if someone wants to pretend something, they can. Doesn't mean that you and I have to buy into it. So while I am a libertarian, I would challenge you is don't just think. You hear people, you see trustees up here that are saying that our local election should be nonpartisan. Well, I would challenge you, don't just think in terms of Republican and Democrat. Is when you look at our ballot, and again I'm going down another rabbit hole here, is there's a straight party option on the top of your ballot. That's not a good thing, people, because you can't tell me that you go all the way down that ballot and somebody is an idiot in your party. I mean, I don't care whether you're on whichever side that you're on. So I would tell you, and Mr. Borba can correct me if I say anything wrong with this, but even if you do vote that straight party on the top, as you come down to an individual race, you can override that and vote in that individual race. So even if you do punch that Democrat or Republican spot on the top, do come down your ballot, consider some of these other people that are running, and I promise you I won't change clothes. I will be out on the stoop on the steps and be still wearing a white shirt. I would love to talk with you both about myself and maybe about the Libertarian Party a little bit. So please kind of catch me outside after 8:45. Thank you.